Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow you do have a test, 25 questions, all multiple choice. Tomorrow you have 29 minutes to take it. I hope that when we get to week 27, we can be down to 28 minutes. But we'll see how it goes tomorrow. So remember, the goal is just to 27. We can do it because we need to, okay? Because remember, we can't do anything unless we practice. With that being said, if you're a band kid, make sure you are grabbing your prompts for next week, because next week is writing week. At the moment, you only have one DBQ. So if the DBQ goes well, you'll only have one DBQ. But if it does not go well, we will do 2.
Like one the whole writing week? Or what?
Yeah.
Oh, no. The whole writing? Like, so we do, how's that going to take up a whole week?
We have LEQs and SAQs.
So you're lying is what I'm hearing.
Well, no, we can do just a bunch of DBQs. Or we could just do one really good DBQ, and then we can focus on the other essays we haven't really talked about in a long time. So that's what I'm hoping. So if the DBQ you guys are turning in are complete crap, guess what we're going to spend the rest of the week doing? DBQ. So keep in mind, if you're a band kid, there's a lot of flexibility, because all I know is I'm starting with the DBQ, and that's going to dictate the rest of my week. So if things go smoothly with the DBQ, then we're going to transition to SAQs and LEQs. If that goes to complete hell in a handbag, that's the expression, then we'll just do DBQs all week. And I'm ready to go on that, yes.
Is this per period or
overall? Overall, because like I may sometimes vary up the essays, but that's a lot. And it hurts my brain. Like really, really hurts my brain. All right. Questions, concerns about tomorrow? Questions, concerned about next week? Okay, good. All right, here we go. Who can raise their hand and tell me where we left off? Hayden.
It was under the terrorism heading, and I wrote used by non-government groups like religious extremists.
There you go. Okay. It is also really important, ladies and gentlemen, so we're talking about terrorism. Terrorism is being done not military to military. It is being done by militant group towards a population of people. Okay? Why does terrorism evolve? It evolves because these militant groups, or groups that happen to have lots of guns, lots of weapons at their access, they know that they cannot change a government. They won't be able to overthrow. They won't be able to conquer. They won't be able to do that. But they want to inflict fear and as much change on the daily lives as people as possible. It is super important that you need to understand that this is not Muslim people, Arab people only. Terrorism is white people, brown people, black people. Everybody's included in terrorism. So if your only understanding of terrorism are Muslims, you have missed most of the terrorism that has happened in the world, okay? Because we're going to start off with a bunch of white people. Now, what is the biggest threat to the United States in 2022, according to the FBI? White men are the biggest terrorist threat to America, with domestic terrorism being done by white men, typically in their 40s, are committing the biggest crimes. So if your idea of what a terrorism is Arab descent, Muslim religion, you are wrong. So let's start where terrorism is really going to start showing its effectiveness is going to be in Ireland. Okay, Ireland is where we're going to start. Okay, now at this point, ladies and gentlemen, we have Northern Ireland and Ireland. Okay, one is loyal to the British, one is independent. One is Catholic, one is Protestant. So we have 2 problems going on here in Ireland. Is Ireland independent or dependent on England? Are you Protestant or are you Catholic? This is going to cause terrorism to occur between the IRA and the Ulster Defense Association. You need to know the IRA are Catholics, and you need to know that the Ulsters are Protestant. Okay? Now, they're going to kill about 3,500 people. Okay, so it's a pretty good death count. there's a terrible band called U2. Yes, I hate him. I hate Bono so much. I just feel like he's just, the most arrogant person in the world. He wrote a very famous song called Bloody Sunday. It's about the IRA bombings in Ireland. So if you've ever seen it and listened to it, you've probably heard it. It's terrible because I hate U2 more than anything. That's what it's about. You do need to know in 1994, it kind of ends with a peace agreement and nonviolence being focused on government controls. Okay. Spain is our next country. Okay, we're going to have the Basque Homeland and Freedom, also known as the ETA. Big thing is, in 1973, they assassinate Franco. That's their big accomplishment. That's a big deal. Because keep in mind, Franco is the last truly fascist leader in Europe. Okay? We're going to have some other fascists pop up, but he's the last big one in Europe. Okay? And in 2011, in Spain, they are going to have they're going to stop bombing and doing the attacks. All right, Peru is where we're heading next. And they have the shining path. Okay, they want to bring communism to Peru. Okay, they're going to kill 37,000 people. So far, they're the most effective one. And they are. At killing people, that is. Okay. In 1992, their leader, Guzman, is going to be sent to prison. In 1992, their leader goes to prison. In 2011, they sign a armistice. Or they stop fighting. Well, they stop killing people. So if you had to guess the year that a terrorist group stopped killing people, what year are you going to guess? 2011. Because keep in mind, Obama is going to kill Osama bin Laden in? Yeah, and that's going to decapitate Al-Qaeda. So 2011 is just like a really great year. If you're going to guess when a terrorist organization ends, is going to be? Enthusiasm for when I see a concurrent thread throughout our content here, people. All right. Islamic terrorism, which is the most famous for us Americans. Now, you need to know Islamic terrorism is going to be based on fundamentalism. That is a major component. Fundamentalism is the bringing back of Muslim traditions from the time of Muhammad. These practices have been out of use for almost 400 years at this point. And they're going to start back. What country brings them back first? We had a coup there. We got caught. Things went bad. And then they overthrew themselves into an extreme conservative government. What is it, Al? Iran. Ooh, I like how you even say it, Iran, too. That's fancy. Okay? Iran is where, see, prettier, not so pretty. Iran is where this is going to start. You should write that down. Iran is really where this terrorist organization is going to start because of this fundamentalist component. There is a religious component to it. This is where you start having the burqas. Keep in mind, head coverings, the hijab is something that has continued throughout all of history. It's not a new thing, okay? But the, I just said it, the burqa is going to be pulled back and brought back after about 400 years absence, and that's going to be complete submission back into Sharia law. You cannot talk about fundamentalism unless you have Sharia law, so I would write that down. Sharia law is the law code created by Allah, not Allah, created by Muhammad when he was fighting in the desert. Okay, so you do need to know, in West Africa, you have Boko Haram. Okay, they're still around kicking it. They're the people who capture buses of children and enslave the babies, like I'm talking like 9-year-old girls, into marriage slaves. Yeah, well, they rape and do terrible things to these women. They're not women, they're little babies. It happens all the time. Boko Haram has a huge tradition of doing it. The last big bus they took was like a year and a half ago. Okay? You have Al-Shalib, which is in East Africa, which is going to be doing a lot of your arms dealing, which we're going to get to here in a few minutes. And then finally, you have the Islamic State of Iraq and Lebanon. Oh my God, what do you think that's going to evolve into? The Islamic State of Iraq and Lebanon. ISIS. It'll eventually, longer path forward, is going to turn into ISIS. Now, the biggest and most important one is Al-Qaeda. And why should you know Al-Qaeda? They are the ones who bombed us on 9/11. Their leader is Osama bin Laden. You need to have his name down. Okay, you need to know that Osama bin Laden is a billionaire. So when you saw him in his like white little flowy shirts and stuff like that, and his sandals and stuff like that, that was an image he wanted you to see and curated for you. Your boy Osama bin Laden used to run around New York City and be like a little socialite and go to clubs and party and drink and like do debauchery over the city like billionaires in New York do. He also had a really luxe pad in London, lived his life, and he was educated in the best universities the world has to offer. Is that something you knew about your boy Osama bin Laden? If you thought he's been living in caves, living in poverty his whole life, you are wrong. Your boy's rich. Well, he was rich. He's now fish food, but he was. Okay? Now, Osama bin Laden is going to carry out a lot of attacks. Okay? His first attack is not 9/11. However, his most famous attack is 9/11. He is going to use passenger commercial flights as a weapon. Why does he use commercial passenger jets as a weapon, Micah? Why? No. Henry? No. No, because we would have shot them down. We were trying to shoot them down.
No, because like the passenger went in, like.
No, we would have shot them down. Yeah, no. We were lining. As soon as the first two planes hit, we knew the third one was still in the air. They would have shot it down. But the passengers are going to pull it down into the field in Pennsylvania. That's why. We didn't shoot it down, but we would have shot it down after the second plane. The first plane, everyone thought it was just an accident. Everyone in the world was like, oh my God, this is crazy. While you were watching it on that day, which I was your age, by the way, I was a sophomore in high school when it happened. I'm 35, don't do the math. You're watching it and you're like, holy shit, like the World Trade Center is hit. That's crazy. A plane hit it. And there was some footage of it hitting. And then you're watching like live camera. Everyone has their camera up and all the news people are standing in front of it. And then all of a sudden from the background at 8:36 in the morning, a second plane hits. And then that's when the world changed. The first plane, everyone was like, holy shit, that's wild. Second plane hit, oh my God, we're under attack. That's when everything changed, and that's when the panic really started to occur. What do you got, Hayden?
Was it to like specifically target the civilians?
Well, guys, keep in mind, these are terrorist organizations, so do they have access to a full-on military? No, so they don't have the tools, which is why they're using terrorism. The reason why they're using commercial airplanes is that's the only way they can inflict pain on the United States because they don't have the military to do so, correct? It's also psychological warfare as well, yes? Because they're too small to have that big of an impact. They're not going to be able to send a rocket from Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia, which is where most of their funding is coming from, by the way. Not Afghanistan, Iran, or Iraq. Most of the money's coming from Saudi Arabia. What is the last country we've really punished for 9/11? Yeah, we've kind of ignored that. Why would we not punish Saudi Arabia as much as we should? Gadaki? Yeah, we need their oil. Saudi Arabia is the largest oil producer in the world. Okay, so we can't really punish them because we need their oil, so keep that in mind. They can't send missiles because we could shoot them out of the sky really quickly and really effectively. So they have to use, and that's what the ingenious kind of component of terrorism is. The idea of using car bombs against populations is a new technology that the IRA is going to create. Terrorists are going to take these tools and use them because they cannot, they don't have full access to a military, and they don't have the power to overtake the United States, for instance. Okay, now, 9/11 is going to kill about 3,000 Americans. 3 planes go down that day. Okay. Most of the world is going to support going after these terrorists. So in the beginning of the Iran-Iraq Afghanistan war, it was a whole world kind of agreed on it. That fades pretty quickly though. And keep in mind, in 2011, Osama bin Laden is going to be executed under the commands of Obama. Okay, so there you go. Now, other domestic terrorism here in the United States, we have the Oklahoma City bombing, okay? That's going to happen, and we also have a lot of domestic terrorism. Today in 2022, we have a ton of domestic terrorism. And what's another form of domestic terrorism we have going on here in the United States? Andrew? Shootings. School shootings are a big one. We also just have public shootings. All of these things are problems not every country in the world faces. We know this, yes? Okay, so domestic terrorism is a huge component of it. All right, military states. Military states. Okay, so what is going to happen is that these countries are going to be based off profiting off of war. You need to know that. These countries are profiting off of war, specifically selling weapons. Now, in our history, chronologically, at this moment, at this time, the Cold War has not ended. So every country in the world is building up their arms, even if they're not the United States and Russia. So when we have countries like France, are they building up their armories? Yes, everyone is building up their armories because everyone's concerned about what's going to happen. The world has come to blows at least twice, almost to the end. Twice in the Cold War, everyone wants a piece of the protection, hopefully it implies. Now the first one is going to be Franco. Franco is going to be overthrown, and he's going to be executed in 1973, so this is Spain. In 1975, they are going to move to a democracy. Now, you do need to know, ladies and gentlemen, Franco is going to be a massive arms dealer. That's how Spain is going to make a lot of money under Franco. You also need to know, he is a fascist, which means they are using secret police very effectively, which means we're going to have about 300,000 Spanish people disappear. They just go, night falls, and they are gone and never seen from again. There's huge monuments throughout all of Spain for these lost people. It's just like the SS or the Gestapo, or what's the Soviet one? KGB. Okay, people just mysteriously disappear in the middle. Do they really disappear? No, the government kills them and throws a body somewhere, or lights it on fire, or does something crazy with it, and ta-da, that's what happens. Okay, okay. Your second one is Uganda. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you should know what happens in Uganda in the 1990s. Hotel. Oh, God, no. Okay, so, yes, Hotel Rwanda is going to start happening. Uganda is right next door. All the weapons Uganda uses against the Hutu and the Tutsi, who are going to be killed in Rwanda, are going to start in Uganda. Uganda is going to have a genocide. The Rwandans are going to do it better, so that's exciting. Okay, so Uganda, you do need to know they're going to have a lady. I didn't mean that. They're going to have a ruler who is Idi Amin, and he calls himself the Butcher of Uganda. So how much democracy you think is happening there? None is what is happening here. Okay, now you need to know he aligns himself with the Soviets because he needs weapons. Because if you are running a militarized country, you need to have lots and lots of Weapons, absolutely. So, you do need to know he's going to declare himself president for life. Ladies and gentlemen, if you declare yourself president for life, what are you absolutely not? A president. Putin has declared himself president for life. Guess what? Putin hasn't had a fair election in 3 election terms, like 22 years at this point. Okay? Xi Jinping of China also has 4 years ago declared himself president for life. Not a good look. Can't be a president if you call yourself a president for life. You need to know that they are going to have atrocious human rights violations. Okay? They are systemically killing their own people to maintain power. Okay, so terrible atrocities are occurring here. Okay, he is personally going to commit a genocide of 500,000 people. Okay, it's all racially motivated. Okay, now, you do need to know, ladies and gentlemen, you need to put a big star. Military arms dealings will begin to get heavily regulated during this time. So what does that mean? Let me tell you. So here in the United States, do you know we sell weapons to other countries? Yeah, like Biden got into a lot of trouble his first 2 months in office because France was supposed to sell a submarine, a nuclear sub, to Australia, and Biden undercut the French and sold a nuclear sub of ours to the Australians, which cut the French out of billions of dollars of money that they really need because the French economy is really struggling. With that being said, Macron was pissed and pulled all the embassies out of the United States, which is a huge deal and hasn't happened since the 1700s. Big deal. With that being said, Biden came out, did a public tour. I'm so sorry. I love you. And Macron was like, oh, I love you too. And now we're friends again. Okay? But we, as a country, sell weapons to countries all over the world. Some of them are tasteful. Some of them are not. With that being said, the UN, you need to write this down, limits what countries can receive weapons. Why would the UN want to limit countries and how many weapons they can purchase? Come on, I just explained one guy's example. Why, Hayden? No, not a Cold War, because no one's going to buy as enough guns as the Americans and the Soviets have. Why, Andrew?
Avoid genocide?
Yes, okay? We are looking to avoid, okay? The reason why the UN begins regulating who can buy what and who and where is because we're trying to stop having these genocides. We're trying to limit how many atrocities are being committed against regular people. Because these weapons aren't being used against people across the borders. They're not fighting with other people. They're fighting with their own citizens. And that's the big difference. Starting in the 1970s, and you need to write this down, we have a lot more inner conflicts, especially in the Middle East and Africa and Asia. All of your decolonization is now turning into abuses of human rights, where they're just killing people off in their own country. And that's a huge trend. And this is going to continue to fulfill this military industrial complex. So keep in mind we're going to start limiting weapons. All right, let's do some boards. Here we go. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is it called when a small group of people try to inflict intellectual pain on another region? Chris. Terrorism on your whiteboard. Terrorism is really going to explode for the first time in this country. It'll be about separatists versus unified. It'll be Catholics versus Protestants. Virginia. Ireland. On your whiteboard, give me the 2 teams of Ireland's problems. I want the real names. Don't tell me Catholics versus Protestants. Good. What do we got? Sophia. IRA and UDA. On your whiteboard, please tell me what country has one of the last fascist leaders intact. They are going to execute him in 1973. And who is it, Gattaky? Spain. On your whiteboard, please tell me. The Shining Path is located in what country? They're going to kill 37,000 people. Taylor. Peru. Who's the leader of the Shining Path? Who eventually would be imprisoned. And then, of course, we're going to have the chaos for a couple more years. Joseph. Guzman. On your whiteboard, please tell me. What African nation is going to gain the support of the Soviet Union? The support will lead to atrocities committed against his people. Micah. Uganda. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the name of the most successful Muslim terrorism group. They will directly attack the United States and kill 3,000 Americans. Neil. Al-Qaeda. On your whiteboard, what year do most terrorist groups end? Or their leaders get removed? Cassidy. 2011. What is the name of the Islamic terrorist group in West Africa that has the tendency of capturing young girls? It is still happening today. Good. What do we got? Maggie. Boko Haram. On your whiteboard, please tell me, Islamic terrorism is based on what Islamic principle that's started by Iran? Good. Okay, let's get some clarifying. The answer I'm looking for is what, Izzy? Fundamentalism is what the whole thing of Islamic terrorism is based on. Islamic terrorism implements what, Henry? Sharia law, okay, which is bringing back the traditional belief system of Muhammad from like forever and a day ago. All right. Let's go. All right, good. Yes.
What was the leader of Peru?
Is Guzman, Guzman. Okay. So, the end of the Cold War is your new heading, ladies and gentlemen. It is the end of the Cold War. Okay, so this is the last 10 years of it. So if you want to do 1980s, end of the Cold War, 1980s to 91, that is perfectly fine because that's the time range we're in. Okay, we're going to have a Deontay. Okay, after Bay of Pigs. Who can remind me what happened at Bay of Pigs? Come on. I have a ton of stuff I got to get through, and the faster you help me. Scott.
Like America promised to help Cuba to like overthrow the communist government, but then they like backed out and settled to
Okay, sort of. You're not wrong, but you're not right. Got to clean it up.
America sent a bunch of Cuban refugees back into Cuba to go start a revolution, and it failed miserably.
It failed miserably. Why?
Because they all got killed.
Well, yeah, that's part of it. James?
They didn't send the airplanes.
Yes, they didn't send the airplanes, but all the guns, the boats, and all that stuff are all American. So keep that in mind, okay? So, Bay of Pigs. Kennedy it's not Kennedy's plan, but it's during Kennedy's presidency. He's going to send all these people. Last minute, he pulls the airplanes. All of these people get completely killed. It is the first major attack the United States does directly on the Soviets, and of course, it's 90 miles off of our coast, okay? This is going to be it's going to be one of the closest points of the Cold War. That is a huge deal. So Bay of Pigs is going to be one of the closest explosions of war in the Cold War. Okay? After 9 days of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is caused by Bay of Pigs, okay, both USSR and the United States say, let's take a break. And that's what a Deontay is. It's let's take a break. The Deontay is USSR and the U.S. saying, how about you stand 15 feet away from your red button, I'll stand 15 feet from our button, and let's just breathe. Okay? Both of the countries wanted a break from the brinksmanship of the Cold War. So during this time, we have Brezhnev, who you need to know, and Nixon are the two leaders of these two countries. Brezhnev and Nixon. Now, during this time, Brezhnev and Nixon are going to meet. That's a big deal because this is the first U.S. president to sit down with the Soviets from Truman in the Potsdam Conference. So it's the first time in a really long time that we're going to have both of them sitting in the same room. When they're both sitting in the same room under this détente, or this pause of the war, they're going to agree on the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, also known as SALT, which is what we're still living with today. Isn't that cool? This is what is limiting us from having all the bombs in all the places. We're only allowed to have a certain amount. And the Russians send people over 3 or 4 times a year to check out our bombs to make sure we're not making more. Same thing over there. We send Americans over there to go look at all their bombs and make sure they haven't added any bombs. That's the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty. Okay? Now, it is really important that you understand why this is happening. Okay? So, you need to know that China is becoming a problem for Russia. So the reasons why the détente is happening. Obviously, we have Bay of Pigs, Cuban Missile Crisis, which is going to stress everyone out. The whole world stops for 9 days. The détente is happening, but there's other reasons that are going to allow it to occur. First thing is China is stressing out Russia because they're constantly fighting with the Russians. And, of course, Nixon is saying, hello, China. Because who does Nixon want to piss off? Russia. Now, you need to know, you need to put a big star. Russia's economy is in a massive decline. Okay? And they know it. So, things are not going well in Russia. So the pause is seen as kind of a blessing for the Russians because they're spending so much money. Now, you're also going to see that the satellite nations, your Warsaw Pacts, are causing more problems. Everyone wants their freedoms, and it costs a lot of money to go put down. Like Prague Spring is a perfect example of that. That costs a lot of money. Okay? Now, a couple things you need to know. The United States also needs this. The United States economy is hurting. This is 1980s. We're going to start having major inflation. And gas prices are going up, which is what's going to start happening today. So if you need to, I'd get gas today because when Putin invades, probably tomorrow, all worldwide prices are going up. You know that, yeah? Yeah, Putin has said he's going it. He's going it. Biden is addressing the nation today, saying that we're going to put sanctions on him. Germany has cut off the pipeline to Russia, so Russia's already hurting to a degree. That was the big thing they feared. I told you, he was either going to invade before the Olympics or after the Olympics. And as soon as the closing ceremonies of the Olympics happened yesterday, guess what Putin did? He announced a war because he wanted his friend to have his Olympics. Yeah, they ended yesterday, literally yesterday.
That's nice.
It is. He wanted Xi to have his dream. That's so nice.
But I heard that Russian lady, this is the skating girls, is like really mean to the kids, like abusive.
Well, yes, girl. They're giving him drugs.
Not good.
Yeah. I'm going to continue with this, though. Okay, you need to know the United States is hurting. You need to know the U.S. government is not very popular because we have the Vietnam War going under, so there's protests everywhere. So, the détente comes at the perfect time. Both nations need this breather. This breather will usher in more talks. That's a big deal. So the détente is the first real step towards ending the Cold War. Here's another problem the Russians are having. They're going to invade Afghanistan. Okay, the Russians invade Afghanistan because what does Afghanistan have? Oil. Okay, guys, that's like the new trend. If I ask you what does the country have, the answer is always going to be, because everyone in the world needs. There you go. Okay, so the Soviets are going to invade Afghanistan. They need the oil. Their economy is in free fall, and they get their butts handed to them because the Afghanis are fighting guerrilla warfare style. You need to write this down. Okay, so the Soviets are going to invade for oil. They're going to lose guerrilla style. Okay, the Afghanis are going to rally and defeat the Soviets. Now, who do you think is giving the Afghanis weapons? The Americans. And you know what's the funny thing is those weapons are going to be the ones who are going to be killing Americans in less than 5 years. Just fun fact. So keep in mind when we're doing arms sales, that usually happens. The United States is one of the largest provider of arms to other countries. Fun fact, especially after the 1970s when Franco was out of power. So if a country's killing Americans, guess what typically those guns are? Americans. Fun fact. Okay, now put a big star. The loss of the Soviets in Afghanistan will trigger rebellions in the Warsaw Pacts. Okay? Huh? The loss of Afghanistan by the Soviets is going to trigger the Warsaw countries to begin rebelling. They saw this as their opportunity. Okay? So, it is going to cause. Now, I will tell you, and you're going to want to put a second star. The invasion of Afghanistan by the Soviets will cause an economic disaster for Afghanistan that they'll have yet to recover from. Because of the Soviet invasion to Afghanistan, which will cause a civil war, that is why it's a hot damn mess, which is why these terror groups keep popping up in Afghanistan, which is why we go in and invade and we just cause more chaos later. So, it's all connected. Okay, so this is going to open the door to Soviet collapse. The third thing that's going to open the door to the collapse is what we call Star Wars. Strategic Defense Initiative, or Star Wars. Now, you need to know these talks are between Reagan and Gorbachev. There are only 4 Soviet leaders you need to memorize. There's a total of 9, by the way. You only need to memorize 4. Does anyone know who the 4 Soviet leaders are that I need you to know? What do you got, Henry?
Lenin, Stalin, Brezhnev, and Gorbachev.
There you go. Those are your 4. Lenin, Stalin, who you should absolutely know by this point. Brezhnev, because you need to know the Brezhnev Doctrine that says that if any country begins to rebel against the Soviets, they're going to use their full might to go against them and crush them. And then Gorbachev. Gorbachev is the last. He's still alive? Yeah, you can Google him. He, looks like Russia. You know what I mean? He's, Russian. And that man has killed so many people. But Gorbachev's still alive. So that's pretty cool. Okay? So those are the 4 you need to know. So Gorbachev is your final leader for the Soviets. So we're now at the very end. Reagan is going to convince Gorbachev that we have lasers in our satellites that can shoot down ICBMs and nukes. We didn't. But I don't know. We probably do. I don't know. I'm not important. People don't tell me things like that. And I'd be so excited, right? That's pretty cool. Pew pew. That's pretty cool. I don't know. Maybe. I would assume so, right? Anyway, this is important because we don't have this technology. You need to note that. Star Wars is a lie. However, Gorbachev definitely doesn't have this technology, so he's going to throw billions of dollars into developing the technology to shoot lasers from satellites to intercept ICBMs. Well, ladies and gentlemen, does he have billions of dollars to spend? He doesn't. So it's going to bankrupt the Soviet Union. It's genius, is it not?
What if they actually upgrade?
Well, they probably would have after on a long enough thing. Because keep in mind, the Soviets were beating us in all the technology for the longest of time. So keep that in mind. Okay, and as Ainsley just pointed, if you don't do what the Russians want, they're going to drug you and kill you. So this poor girl is never going to skate again because they're going to break her legs when she gets back to Russia. I mean, no, they're not. They love and support her afterwards. Completely unrelated. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Now, so we have this. You need to put a big star. It is going to drain the Russian economy of any excess funds. So, the Soviet economy has already been struggling. Then we have this stupid Star Wars thing, which is going to force the Soviets to spend billions of dollars on technology that we don't even have, but we convinced them we do. Okay, so they're going to try making all this, waste all this money. Okay, now, you do need to know a couple things about Gorbachev. Okay, Gorbachev, you should note that he's the last. You need to know he's the most progressive of your communist rulers. Okay? And he introduces some capitalist ideals into Soviet Russia. So Gorbachev, he's the last. Okay? He's the most progressive of the communist leaders. And he's going to introduce some capitalistic measures. There's two of them you have to know. You cannot talk about the fall of Soviet Union without talking about it. My honors kids are actually going to learn this too. Okay, first one is perestroika, which is right here, and glasnost. Perestroika is free enterprise. So people can start selling things to other people in open markets. Okay? And glasnost is more political freedom. So people are now able to disagree with the government and have more of a say. Because the frustration of not being able to say anything was causing too many problems. Okay? So these fundamental things will be brought into Russia by Gorbachev, and it is the beginning of the end. Okay? Now, the final thing that you need to know is the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Okay, it is going to be signed in 1987 between Gorbachev and Reagan. And it will limit how many nuclear technology a country can have. It will give the official militarization of the end of the Cold War. Both countries agree not to use nuclear technology. This is the officially militarily end of the Cold War. The whole world has a huge sigh of relief. Now, politically, is the Cold War over yet? No, we still have 4 more years of that. But militarily, in 1987, this is the final treaty between these two nations. Today, we are still governed by the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, which limits how many nuclear weapons we have. We also have to disclose where they are. And the Russians send people over and we go, here's our stuff. And then we go over there and they're like, here's our stuff. And we look at them and we say, cool. Don't you think this is cool? This is like real life stuff. Okay, the end of it all. The end of the Cold War. The end. Like this is the end. Okay, Gorbachev will stop sending money to Warsaw nations. Why? Why does he do it? Because he wants to? No, they're broke, dude. They are so broke. No child support anymore. Now, if these Warsaw nations are not getting any money, what are they going to do? They're going to burn the place down because they don't want to deal with all this crap and they're not getting money. So, as soon as the payments stop, every Warsaw nation starts rebelling. Okay? So, all the Soviet bloc countries are now demanding freedoms and independence from the Soviet Union, which will be granted because the Soviets can't do anything about it because they have no... There you go. So, in 1989, the Berlin Wall comes down. You need to know that. In 1990, East and West Germany are unified back to Germany. So, in 1990, we have the unification of Germany. This will be the first time it's unified since 1945. That's 45 years. Do you see that math right there? Smartest person alive. Okay, 45 years they've been independent. Now they are. Okay, now all of your former Soviet satellites are going to start leading with reforms. Okay, they are going to overthrow. It is important you understand. They overthrow their Soviet rulers. Because remember, the Warsaw countries are going to have appointed rulers. And then they're going to do elections of new rulers. Okay, so they're going to get rid of their Soviet leaders and replace them with more nationalistic rulers. Okay, now the USSR officially collapsed in 1991 because of Gorbachev's policies. You need to know that the Russians consider Gorbachev a hero because he made the crash easier. Does that make sense? Okay, so please keep that in mind. Okay, so that's our last slide. 1991, Gorbachev's policies are what's going to lead to its downfall, but Gorbachev is seen as a national hero today, and because his policies lessen the blow of the end of the Cold War and the collapse of the economy.
What was that last year?
1991.
And
Okay,
that was
that's the end of the USSR. So Gorbachev's policies are going to lay the foundation for what is modern day Russia, which is what we're dealing with today. All right, crushed it. Oh my God, how exciting. Is this stuff happening?